introduce myself first. My name is Jennifer Rieger. I serve as Director of Communications and Media Relations here at Seton Hill University. And I'm going to be serving as kind of your host, moderator of sorts during this presentation. This is a mission moment as we celebrate the 246th birthday of Saint Elizabeth Ann Seton. So as we celebrate this birthday, this anniversary, I wanted to welcome members of the Mission and Identity team here at Seton Hill, who will, talk about what the office is all about, what they do here at Seton Hill. I'd like to introduce first our Vice President for Mission and Identity, Sister Maureen O'Brien, who will, talk about the office and introduce the members of her team. Sister Maureen.
Thanks so much, Jen. And I want to thank Jen and the staff of the Office of Alumni Relations for providing this opportunity for us to chat with you about the Office of Mission and Identity and our ministry at Seton Hill. As you can see, I'm joined by our birthday girl, Elizabeth Seton, so she's with us as well. But first of all, I'd like to introduce the members of our team, beginning with our most recent member. Tony Krasmarzik officially joined our staff as Director of Campus Ministry on July 1 of this year. It's been a challenging beginning, but Tony's learning the meaning of hazard yet forward. Marissa DeLucia Haynes serves as Director of Service Experience and formerly was on the staff of the Office of Alumni Relations, so the alums may know her from that position. Marissa has the honor of sharing her birthday with Elizabeth. So happy birthday to Marissa. She's not 246, as you'll see. And last but not least, Monsignor Roger Statnick, who joined us last year as university chaplain. Monsignor is a retired priest of the Diocese of Greensburg, and Monsignor has been an instructor in our pastoral ministry program. And I think we've pulled him out of retirement because he certainly isn't sharing retired person hours. We keep him busy. So just to give you a little bit of history about the Office of Mission and Identity, last year in October, after having served as Director of Campus Ministry for 10 years, I moved into the position of Vice President for Mission and Identity. Shortly after I took on my new responsibilities, someone asked me, well, what do you do? I must say it made me pause. I had a job description, but I had to ask myself, what is at the heart of the Office of Mission and Identity? Simply, we believe our vocation as ministers of mission is to make explicit what is implicit. Since this is a relatively new position at Seton Hill, it may not have existed when some of our alums were here. In the early years at Seton Hill, the sisters on faculty and staff led the mission charge. Sister Ann Infanger, a former professor in the biology department, always likes to share this statistic. In 1975, there were 75 sisters ministering in various roles at Seton Hill. The sisters were in the classrooms, in the labs, in the residence halls, in administrative offices. The sisters were the living mission. So many of you have your favorite sister story, and I know you could regale us with those for hours on end. Fast forward to the late 1990s or into the early 21st century. And at that point, many Catholic colleges and universities anticipating the dwindling numbers of members of the founding congregations, began to establish an office of mission. Some called it mission and identity, as we do, mission and ministry. And the purpose was that as time passed, as numbers of the founding congregation would decrease, the mission would continue to be articulated, to be made explicit by our lay colleagues and our students. Now at Seton Hill, there's always been a sense of ownership among faculty and staff, that deep spirit of community, of doing what it takes to get the job done. And that's a characteristic of the Sisters of Charity. We do what it takes to get the job done. So at the suggestion, probably the insistence of Sister Gertrude Foley, who at that time was the major superior of the Sisters of Charity, and Sister Lois Skolko, who was the vice president for student life, President Joanne Boyle established the Office of Mission and the Task Force on Mission, which later became a standing committee of the Board of Trustees. On the home front, Sister Lois established a Mission Effectiveness Committee, which was a large committee which represented all the constituencies of the institution. In her inaugural address, Dr. Finger made it clear that mission would be a top priority in her role as the president of Seton Hill. And so to that end, she appointed a mission steering committee, which continued the work begun by Sister Lois and the Mission Effectiveness Committee. And Sister Vivian Linkhauer, who many of you know from the faculty, who was the academic dean, succeeded Sister Lois. And now I stand on their strong shoulders, and the work of the steering committee continues with various task forces and subcommittees. So with my appointment to the position, we've reorganized the office to include the Department of Campus Ministry, the Department of Service Experience, and the Office of the University Chaplain. And if you think about it, that really does make a lot of sense. As Vice President for Mission and Identity, I sit on the President's Council to ensure that mission is the guiding force of all the decisions that we make on behalf of the institution. Decisions that are both small decisions and large decisions. As we have made our way through these past months and dealing with the COVID-19 crisis and all of the other crises that have been so much a part of our life, mission has really been there to guide and to help us through these very difficult days. So enough for that. I know you're wondering, what do we do on a day-to-day basis in this virtual and very challenging world? Our mission as a department is to articulate and to make explicit to the Seton Hill community the 4 pillars of our Catholic identity, which support our mission. Those pillars being the pillars of welcoming, learning, celebrating, and serving. These pillars guide and focus our ministry to students, faculty, staff, to you, our alums, and to the local, national, and global communities. The pillars are grounded in the tradition of Seton Hill University and in the tradition and the charism of Saint Elizabeth Ann Seton, Mother Aloysia Lowe, and the Sisters of Charity. The pillar of welcoming has been a hallmark of life at Seton Hill. In welcoming our students, we use the quotation of Elizabeth Ann Seton: the front door, the back door, the side door that leads to the chapel, all the windows, upstairs and downstairs, open at your coming. This was never so apparent as when we welcomed our students to campus for face-to-face instruction on August 17. Aligned with the pillar of welcoming is our commitment to diversity and inclusion. Just recently, Dr. Finger established a task force on diversity and inclusion. That task force includes faculty, staff, administration, current students, and members of the alumni community. In the spirit of Elizabeth Ann Seton and in the spirit of the Sisters of Charity, we recognize our care and concern for each other and extend radical hospitality to all people. And now Tony is going to speak about the pillar of learning in the Setonian tradition.
Well, hello and good morning. It is my pleasure to be joining you, and it is fitting that I will speak to you today about the learning pillar and the educational legacy of Saint Elizabeth Ann Seton. As a new member on staff, I have learned so much about Saint Elizabeth already, and the more I learn, the more I see how her example guides all that we do here at Seton Hill. I can see Saint Elizabeth's educational legacy in 5 ways. Education at Seton Hill is integrated, charitable, personalized, experiential, and vocational. Integrated, so it's holistic, it's education of the whole person. St. Elizabeth Ann Seton was a woman dedicated to the education of the whole person. Her goal was to create a learning environment where each student felt respected and valued, and where each student's potential flourished. Here at Seton Hill, we continue her model of holistic education through our connection with the Catholic intellectual tradition. We foster learning community rooted in the dialogue between faith and reason, and encourage students to find God in all areas of their lives. Education is charitable. Love and respect are the foundation of character development. St. Elizabeth was a pioneer of her time. She welcomed pupils from diverse backgrounds and used charity in dealing with her students and with her community. Today, we take student formation seriously. We don't just want to educate students, we want to form their character with charity. Education is personalized. It's creative education that is adapted to each individual. Elizabeth was very sensitive to individual differences among her students. She believed that it was critical to accept each child as they are and treat them as individuals. Today, we invite students to discover and use their gifts and talents to serve others. One example of this is our commitment to student-driven programming. In campus ministry, we have a peer ministry council that enables students to plan, organize, and lead their peers. And in service outreach, we also have a service learning planning board. Experiential. Experience is the best teacher. Having learned from the school of life and the gospel of Jesus Christ how to deal with disappointment, loss, and failure, St. Elizabeth came to befriend such challenges as passageways for God's grace. Today, we invite students to make meaning of their experiences and provide opportunities for experiential learning at every turn. In the Office of Mission Identity, that happens through prayer and liturgy, service and mission trips, coffee talks, and faith sharing. Education is vocational. We are called to do the will of God above all else. St. Elizabeth had a keen sense of her vocation to teach and to care for children. Thus, she wanted to teach the faith she loved while preparing students for successful adulthood. As we all know, St. Elizabeth famously said, "I would wish to fit you for the world in which you're destined to live." Today, we prepare students for professional careers, but also invite students to find their true calling. Ultimately, we prepare students to be productive members of society committed to transforming the world. So that's our learning pillar, and that's the educational legacy of St. Elizabeth and how we see that enacted today at Seton Hill. And now I'd like to invite Father Statnick to talk to us about the celebratory legacy of St. Elizabeth Ann Seton.
Is Father Roger Statnick, and I'm the university chaplain here at Seton Hill. You don't learn everything in the classroom. You don't learn everything in an internship. You don't learn everything in a formal way. And the most important lesson that you learn, you can't learn that way. You learn by celebrating. And that's the lesson to appreciate, the lesson to be grateful. At Seton Hill, celebrating is a very important part of what forms students who become then the citizens of the world that Saint Elizabeth Ann Seton wanted to form. Some of the celebrations are very formal, obviously, like baccalaureate and graduation, or Christmas on the Hill. Other celebrations are much more informal and personal, getting together with your friends and talking about the day or the week, or just celebrating, as we did a few days ago, the welcome weekend and the end of that first experience for our students with an ice cream social. What do we do when we celebrate? We make a very formal, explicit sign of who we are to ourselves and to the world, of what we stand for, with whom we stand, and how we go about living our lives. The heart of celebrating is the Eucharist for us as Catholic Christians. And that became the heart of celebrating for Saint Elizabeth Ann Seton too. Her move into the Catholic Church was very much driven by the way she came to appreciate and understand and celebrate the Eucharist as the sustaining nourishment of her life. At Seton Hill, we begin the year with Mass on the grass. We end the year with a baccalaureate Mass. And between those times, we constantly try to remind ourselves that the Eucharist is the gift of Jesus, so that we can appreciate how all life is a gift from God and how we're called to serve each other because we've been given that gift. Celebration gets into your bones. And once it gets into your bones, you can't go through life without acknowledging how good and great God is and showing that goodness and greatness in the way we treat others. That leads me to introduce to you the fourth pillar of the mission of Seton Hill, and that is the pillar of service. And Marissa Haynes will now speak to you about that need.
Good day, everyone. As Father Statnick mentioned, my name is Marissa Haynes, and I'm the Director of Service Experience here at Seton Hill. And I just want to thank you all for joining us this morning, and I'm happy to be here. A little bit about what I do on campus. I help students connect and serve others in a more just and charitable world. So a couple of ways that I've seen the charism of Elizabeth Ann Seton here at Seton Hill through what I do is in a couple of ways. The first being the sanctity of self and others. We see this at Seton Hill by encouraging and noting that every person here has a purpose and matters, whether it's through leadership roles with students, a student-centered curriculum, or encouraging students to engage in civic engagement. I have the pleasure of seeing this as I am finally connected to the Setonian Vincentian community through service trips with the Sisters of Charity across the world. Another way that I see this on campus is through contemplation and reflection. It is at the core of what we do, asking critical questions to promote dialogue and personal and professional growth for all of our students. Third, I'd like to say, similarly to Elizabeth Ann Seton, we do not shy away from tough or uncomfortable conversations. We invite them. We use them as an opportunity for our students to learn. We do this through advocating for marginalized populations and advocating for those who are a little bit more in need than what we are today. Those are some ways that I can see this. Through my office, I have the pleasure of working with students through mentorship programs, the alternate break programs, recurring service programs, and other programs that they do, whether inside or outside the classroom, that promote service to others. Thank you. I'll now hit it back to Jen to open it up to any questions.
Thank you, Marissa, Sister Maureen, Father Statnick, and Tony. If anyone has questions, please feel free to use the chat function. I'll be happy to ask them for you. But a few questions that I have first, as we wait for chat questions to come in. We're living in extraordinary times right now, and particularly, you know, with the pandemic. Saint Elizabeth Ann Seton lost her husband during quarantine. She lived in extraordinary times. The Mission and Identity team, can you relate the times that Saint Elizabeth Ann Seton lived through to what we're going through today, and the resiliency that she showed and the Sisters of Charity have shown, and how you know, we try to instill that same resiliency in our students?
I think resiliency has been the hallmark of the life of Elizabeth Seton and the life of the Sisters of Charity and the life of Seton Hill. If we go to Elizabeth's earliest days, her father ministered to those who were immigrants as a doctor. And so Elizabeth learned early on the plight of the immigrant. And I think we stand with immigrants and understand their suffering as she did and as she learned from her father. Her time in quarantine with her husband must have been extraordinarily difficult. She left her children, some of her children, 4 of her children, she left at home. She had her oldest, Anna Marie, with her. They were tragic times in her life. When I think of the Sisters of Charity, I think of the sisters who survived the Johnstown flood. How critical that was, a critical time, and how Mother Aloysia Lowe actually went to Johnstown to minister to the people there as the sisters continued their ministry to the flood victims. If we think to the flu of 1918, Seton Hill had just been granted university status. And when we look to the register of the classes in that beginning of that semester, so many of the students had died as a result of the flu. Now, I think that dealing with tragedy is in our bones. It's in our brick and mortar here at Seton Hill, and Elizabeth Seton's resiliency and her passion for the poor, for those on the margins, very much directs all that we do as a community of Sisters of Charity, but also as a community at Seton Hill.
I'd like to echo a little bit with that as well. In terms of quarantining and pandemics, it's no stranger in our history and our roots with Elizabeth Ann Seton and the Sisters of Charity. But today, I think it's really critical that we've embraced our pillar of welcoming to ensure that students, when they return to our campus, feel safe and welcome here during this uncertain time for them. Whether that is very basic things by having such wonderful signage all over so they know which direction to go, up, down, right, left, to just the basic questions we're asking them on a day-to-day basis. Just the fact that we came back face to face, I think, is so important for our students to have that stability during this time. So that we committed to that, I think, shows our resiliency and our commitment to welcoming and educating all of our students.
Father Statnick, you're muted.
Okay. I'd like to add that I think part of resiliency is having hope. You saw that in Elizabeth Ann Seton. she always had hope, and that was really rooted in her faith. But she always had hope that the future could be better if we just continue to be faithful in our service. And I think that's also shown in Seton Hill today, because although it's not easy running an institution and with this coronavirus around us and all of the restrictions it puts on, we are doing that because we have hope that these students will have a future and contribute through that future to a better world. So I think that's also key to our mission, is that it's a resiliency that's based upon the hope that we can do better and things can be better.
Thank you.
I would, oh.
Go ahead, Tony, go ahead.
Yeah, I would add, I've really been struck by, Sister mentioned earlier this sense of the do what it takes, the sort of adaptability, flexibility to changing circumstances and the creativity that's involved with that. And I think I've been really impressed with that from, seeing how we adjusted all the classrooms over the summer, and, Sister Susan was moving desks herself, and we were like, no, let us help you. Meeting yesterday with custodial staff and hearing about all the cleaning procedures and all the work that they're doing tirelessly to keep things safe, to just all the students feeling a sense of solidarity and connection to the common good, being willing to wear the masks and follow procedures and policies. It's certainly hard at this time in their life when they're so social and there's this desire for connectivity to take some separation. But I think the students, they know that we are a community that does what it takes to be together, to learn. And so everyone's chipping in and being a part of this.
Well, thank you all. Another question, and I know we have one in the chat as well, and I'll get to in a second. Today marks the anniversary of the March on Washington, and actually at 3 o'clock today, for those of you alumni who would like to, we're having a special remembrance service on campus that will be live streamed through the Facebook page of the National Catholic Center for Holocaust Education, one of the co-sponsors of the event. So 3 o'clock on Facebook, stay tuned for that. But, Saint Elizabeth Ann Seton and the Sisters of Charity, as has been mentioned before, have had a legacy of serving the underserved, of reaching out to those in the community who are marginalized. Would you talk about those efforts historically? And I know Sister Maureen also mentioned the President's Task Force on Diversity and Inclusion that is underway here at Seton Hill, but how we take that legacy of service to underserved populations and work with those folks today here at Seton Hill.
So I can talk a little bit about how we do it today, unless Sister Mo, you want to touch it first. Okay, so in terms of what we're doing action-wise out in the community, I really work with students on a regular basis to serve anyone who is experiencing any marginalized experience, whether that's food insecurity, civil rights in terms of racism, or gender biases or things like that. And we do that in a number of ways, whether that's through direct service, going and working at the food pantry or working with these individuals, or through advocacy and activism. So helping students understand the underlying causes of these issues and how they can be agents of change to bring about global change in their community, which is truly at the heart of what we do, transforming the world in which they're destined to live. And so we don't shy away from working with all populations. We don't just work with one population, or that's something unique here at Seton Hill. Often students will ask me, is there a cause that's really important, similarly to other institutions that might have a large program that's focused on a certain population? And we don't have that here at Seton Hill. And I think that's because we encourage our students to be passionate about all individuals and serving all who need our help. And that is rooted in Elizabeth Ann Seton and the Sisters of Charity. We don't shy away from the status quo. Instead, we hit it head on in order to help others and, seek justice and know that all human dignity is at the heart of what we do.
Bill Black, our archivist, occasionally sends me some pieces from the archives that he thinks are of interest. And this past week, he sent me a letter which Father Reeves, a copy of a letter which Father Reeves wrote in the early 1930s. And he wrote it to the president, Sister Jose, who was the president of the College of Saint Elizabeth in New Jersey, one of our sister colleges, founded by the Sisters of Charity of New Jersey. And in that letter, Father Reeves was asking Sister Jose for advice. They had just admitted their first person of color to their institution, and he was asking her for advice. He said to that point, no one of color had asked for admission to Seton Hill, but he wanted to be prepared so that when someone did, we would embrace that individual, make them feel a welcomed part of the community. I was really touched by that because, again, it's so Setonian to serve the people on the margins. And that has been part of the history of Seton Hill in so many ways, in our efforts to recruit students from Puerto Rico who might not have had the opportunity to have a quality education, in our commitment to the Sisters of the Holy Family, which began in the 20s. The Sisters of the Holy Family was a community of religious women of color established in New Orleans. Those sisters couldn't receive an education because of the laws of segregation. And so our sisters would go down to New Orleans every summer to educate them. So there are many Sisters of the Holy Family who have degrees from Seton Hill. That was very risky. The sisters were not allowed to live with the Sisters of the Holy Family. They had to live separately. They had to eat separately. But it's part of that hope and resilience that I think is just who we are as Seton Hill and as Sisters of Charity. And that, as Marissa said, that continues today in our education, in our extracurricular efforts. It's an effort to serve those who are underserved.
I just add to that one of the reasons I could be convinced to come out of retirement is a number of years ago, I was at the graduation ceremony at Seton Hill, and I sat there and just watched the crowd. And one of the things I found interesting is I said, a lot of these kids are first generation. They're getting a ticket to an opportunity that they probably wouldn't have if there wasn't the kind of reaching out of this institution to those people who need. And I think that's kind of says it in a nutshell. It's not a matter of where you come from or what your color is, but it's what your need is, and can we help you to address it and to move beyond it.
So, Marissa, we do have a question on service. So what opportunities are available for alumni to get involved in the day-to-day mission and ministry of Seton Hill? And so, that could be service, but that could be, other opportunities as well. Father Statnick, Sister Maureen, please chime in. What can alumni do to get involved in mission and identity?
Yeah, I think that right now during COVID times, we're still looking at how that works, and they're continually being developed. And we always offer to have alumni involved on campus events and things like that. In the past, we've had a lot of alumni participation through Labor of Love, whether it is physically on campus or off campus in their regional areas, which I think is just a great way to connect back. And Labor of Love is our campus-wide day of service, our first one that occurs every year. And we've had alumni participate in our other campus-wide day of service, Take the Day On, as well. In addition, I've worked with the alumni office to have service programs at their programming, including Alumni Weekend, Christmas on the Hill. Last year, alumni were so generous in donating goods for Foster Love Project that were then delivered to the organization that is now coming back to Seton Hill during Labor of Love this year for us to sort out for the fall for the children there. So it's kind of all coming full circle, which is really, really fantastic. So those are some ways that we have worked with alumni in the past through service opportunities. And I'm not sure if Ashley, you might want to chime in with anything that might be coming down the pipe or anything like that.
I would really echo what you're saying, Marissa, that we are continually developing those opportunities. And just again, one example of the service projects that we've had within the past year, our Greater Pittsburgh chapter of the Alumni Association did host its own service project for Take the Day On. So while our students earlier this year, during our spring semester prior to our campus being shut down due to the pandemic, our Greater Pittsburgh chapter participated in a food distribution in Homewood as part of Take the Day On. So I think, Bob, your question about what can you do besides what you're already doing, I think you actually answer your own question, is that you are, as an alum, you are living and breathing the mission of Seton Hill that we're talking about here today, that we are that serving community, that we are that celebrating community, we are that welcoming community. And I think as an alum, that is exactly what you can continue to do, is carry out that mission in your daily life, whether you're on campus or off campus. So those would be the ways that I would encourage you. And of course, for any of the alums, if you're not receiving our emails, as we are continually updating our program offerings that come your way, if by chance you're not getting those emails, now is a good time for me to say, please do go ahead and update your contact information on file with us so that we can keep you apprised of those offerings as they come about.
One of the things that I think about Elizabeth Ann Seton and the Sisters of Charity is how creative they are, and Saint Elizabeth Ann Seton was. Can you share, in these times especially, the creativity that your team has shown in providing programming to students? I know Marissa has been busy on Labor of Love, that she mentioned, but how is creativity and that legacy of creativity playing a role in what you're doing today, given all that we're facing?
Well, I think since March, we went into COVID creative mode. And Father Statnick can speak a little bit to that as to his role as chaplain in being creative. But we initiated a series of what we called mission moments that will be continuing in September online, just having students, faculty, staff reflect on the mission and how the mission was supporting them through these really critical times. We've also done online experiences with contemporary worship, with Bible reflection. And so I think we continue to be creative in this time and place in which we live. It's just what Elizabeth Seton would do. It's what the Sisters of Charity do. It's what Seton Hill does. But maybe Father Statnik, you can speak to the creative way in which you have celebrated and continue to celebrate liturgy.
Well, as one who is technologically challenged, this has really tested my resiliency and my hope. But we have. Well, Sister Maureen and I would get together. We got together all through the summer to celebrate the Eucharist so that it could be posted on YouTube. I have never done that before March, but you know, as so many people have said, you do what you need to do to keep people connected and to keep those pillars alive. And celebrating the Eucharist is, as I've tried to say, such a vital pillar, vital part of the pillar of celebrating for us. We've also, you know, I've become able to, you're on a Zoom meeting right now. Zoom happens all the time at Seton Hill now. And it's a way to connect people. It's a way to keep the business of educating, the business of connecting people, the business of celebrating alive. I mean, I never thought sometimes we could pull this off, but in fact, it's happening. And what we're hoping to do now is with the Sunday Eucharist to be able to stream that throughout the semester. We're waiting for equipment to get in place and have that continue. It's a new kind of way of connecting people and being church to each other, but you do what you need to do so that the mission of Seton Hill and the mission of the Catholic Church can continue.
So I'll just echo all of that as well. You know, Elizabeth lived in revolutionary times. There was constant change and she so embraced it. If you read anything about her, she's just taking it on and loving it. And I think we've definitely done that here. I've had moments of teaching our staff Instagram, so we can Instagram live with our students to be engaged that way, which I'm sure Sister Maureen would say was a great experience for her. And then we also, you know, in my role with service, we don't want to just stop doing service. So we found creative ways to continue that. Through Labor of Love, we're doing virtual service opportunities, make to donate opportunities where students are making items that organizations are in need of. So for example, one is many of you might be familiar with Feeding the Spirit community meal, which is down the church at the bottom of the hill that many of our students participate and actively volunteer with on a regular basis. Given the circumstances, we're unable to participate with them this year, but we didn't want our students to feel disconnected from them. So we're making utensil packets for their grab and go meals that they do on Thursdays. We are also unable at this time to go up and visit the sisters at Caritas, so we're hopefully going to be starting a pen pal program and doing a virtual spelling bee with the sisters during Labor of Love. So we're finding unique and innovative ways to engage with our community through doing service. And I think that that's really fun and creative. And so far the students are really enjoying it. So that's exciting as well.
I would add, I think another way we've gotten creative with the liturgy is in terms of the space. So, you know, St. Joseph's Chapel, we have had to transform into a social distance space in as tasteful a way as possible. So we have red and gold ribbon marking off certain pews where you can't sit. We have small little signs where you are encouraged to sit. We rope off certain sections at different times during the week just to really ensure that we can try to come together to celebrate the liturgy, but do so safely, really respecting and listening to the guidelines as well. So it's a new way to celebrate, but it's what we need to do to be together. So.
Seton Hill students come from all types of faith backgrounds. How does the Office of Mission and Identity work to, allow students to share their faith experiences? I know there are, coffee talks and, on different, faith backgrounds, but, how do we bring students of different faiths together in an understanding way?
I think an important part of what we do in mission and identity is relationships, developing relationships with students. And that's what's challenging to our ministry right now. It's really hard to develop those relationships. We're a very huggy community. Well, you can't hug hello anymore. And it's very challenging, but I think again we do what we have to do in the development of those relationships. Our alumni might be interested in knowing that our percentage of the Catholic population is just about 33%. And so I think as a staff, we make every effort to program to all of our students, regardless. And I think that part of that is our commitment to diversity. We have programs that are interfaith without in any way sacrificing our deep Catholic tradition. So there's a home for everyone here, and students feel very comfortable relating, I think, to all of us. Father Statnick serves the needs through pastoral counseling of all of our students, in our faculty and staff as well. So we're very much aware that, 50 years ago, we would have been serving almost a 99% Catholic population. Today, that's much different. And so again, the creativity to meet diverse needs is really important to our mission to serve our students.
I think one of the things that we all assume is that no matter what the background or tradition of faith, or if there's no explicit faith there among the students, that they're all searching. They're all searching for a meaning in their life and a purpose in their life. And in our Catholic tradition, one of the wonderful things that we have is that we can identify that searching with the need for God. And so you kind of take people where they are in their search, and you try to encourage them along in that search to find what's true and good and beautiful.
I would echo that and just say that there's an assumption that God's grace is always already present in every person's life, and so in that sense of seeking, it's helping people to recognize those joys and those good things happening in their life, and making that connection that we believe as Catholic Christians that is the way God is working in people's lives. And then looking at those concerns and challenges we face in our life, and the importance at times in our life to turn to something greater than ourselves, and to surrender those things to something bigger, as we know God. And so it's looking at what's happening in people's lives, and helping them connect with what we believe in faith.
Thank you all very much for those answers. I appreciate them. as I'm thinking about particularly the learning pillar, I just wanted to say that I was educated by Sisters of Charity and lay people who were, inspired by Sisters of Charity, including someone who's on our call today. So I just wanted to say again, hello to Mrs. Zadecki. She's a Seton Hill alumna and was one of my teachers at St. Jerome's Catholic School in Charleroi, and started we started a newspaper, and that was really became my interest in communications and writing. I was a reporter for many years before coming to Seton Hill. So the inspiration, the legacy of Saint Elizabeth Ann Seton, the Sisters of Charity, continues to have a profound impact on so many people. I just wanted to offer that personal, thought from my own life experience. And those of you on the call, feel free, we have a few more moments, if you have a question or if you want to share a personal, personal thoughts and experiences and how, your Seton Hill education has, influenced your life, and the mission and identity at Seton Hill has influenced your life, feel free to share. We have a lovely note. This was a beautiful, enlightening experience. Thank you so much for taking the time to prepare for this celebration of of Saint Elizabeth Ann Seton. So thank you very much.
Can I conclude with a quotation that I often use, and it's from Sister Electa's book, Mother Seton, Sisters of Charity in Western Pennsylvania.
Take it away, Sister Maureen.
Sister Electa was reflecting on Seton Hill, and I think her words are very appropriate for us today as we reflect on our mission here at Seton Hill. And Sister Electa writes, "In a living institution, as in a living body, changes are constantly taking place. The faculty of a progressive college cannot remain static for even a short space of time. At Seton Hill College, now university, personnel has changed from year to year. New members have been added. Experienced teachers have withdrawn. Names have been inscribed only to be erased as their bearers have gone to other fields. Death has entered the ranks and bore away some who were pillars of strength. But the standards of Seton Hill remain. They were set by the pioneers, some of whom are known today only as names on a tombstone here or there, some but as atoms in a whirling mass that is life. Yet their ideals are the criteria by which their successors carry on the work that once was theirs."
Well, thank you, Sister Maureen O'Brien. Thank you, Marissa, Tony, Father Statnick, and all of our participants today. I think this is a wonderful program and very enlightening and informative about what the Office of Mission and Identity does here at Seton Hill and how you fulfill the legacy of Saint Elizabeth Ann Seton and the Sisters of Charity. So thank you, everyone, for your participation, and have a wonderful and blessed day. Take care.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.